Today on Trial Watch, an exclusive interview with Miko Brando, who talks about his brother Christian, the killer, his sister Cheyenne, the witness, and their father Marlon, the godfather.
We're all stick together as a family, and we have to, whatever needs to be done will be done.
He tried to teach them their ABCs. Did this student slip him some LSD?
All I know is I didn't put the pill in the cup and I'm getting blamed for it.
All this and more today on Trial Watch. Hello, everyone. I'm Rob Weller.
And I'm Lisa Specht. Welcome to Trial Watch.
Later this month, Christian Brando will be sentenced for shooting to death his sister's lover. But who is the son of the world-famous actor? A cold-blooded killer or the protective big brother of a disturbed younger sister? In an exclusive Trial Watch interview, Miko Brando reveals the inner workings of his brother Christian and breaks the circle of silence which envelops the tightly knit family.
Mr. Brando, you heard what I just said? And it's your desire, based on what I just said, to enter into a case settlement of this case, pleading guilty to the charge of voluntary manslaughter. Is that what you want to do?
Yes, sir. This is one of the last public glimpses of Christian Brando, a welder who became famous not because he killed a man, but because his father is Marlon Brando.
I think that Christian has been put through an awful lot. I don't mean to speak for him, but I know that he's exhausted emotionally. He's accused of something he did not do. And
Christian Brando has been accused of one of the most sensationalized murder cases in years, pleading guilty to voluntary manslaughter of his sister's boyfriend, Daze. But as his sentencing date approaches, does the public really know Christian Brando? In an exclusive interview, Christian's brother, Miko Brando, speaks honestly and lovingly about his half-brother, his family, and the case.
But we're probably the same kind of people, very sensitive. We keep to ourselves. We're we're private individuals, I think. That's a good way of putting it.
After the night of May 15th, 1990, their lives were no longer private.
I got a phone call from my father saying there had been an accident and he wanted to let me know before I heard it on the street. And right after that, I went to go see him. He was in West LA. My brother was in West LA, and I went to go see him when they first had him down in prison.
Word hit the streets fast. Marlon himself called 911 to report a shooting at his Hollywood mansion. When the police arrived, Christian told them that in a drunken struggle, he shot and killed Daze, the boyfriend of his pregnant sister, Cheyenne.
There was a confrontation over an alleged beating of Christian's sister, and in the struggle, a gun went off. This is not murder by any manner of means.
I wouldn't expect any of us to be involved in something like this. It was a freak accident, it happened, and now we have to deal with it.
In the past, the Brandos have dealt privately with their problems, but now they've gone public for Christian's sake.
It's brought all of us closer. We're all stick together as a family, and we have to, whatever needs to be done will be done.
The family showed their support by attending all his court hearings, and even Marlon, the most reclusive man in Hollywood, held a press conference in support of his son.
To be under this constant stress and pressure, which he is not used to, I think, if you would excuse him, I think that he'd like to get in the car and get home.
It was especially difficult for Miko to watch his brother, always handcuffed and unshaven, being shuttled into the courtroom. But Miko attended every hearing.
That's how I show my love to him. I was there for my brother, and, and when he needed help and when he needed someone by him, I always stuck by him. I always have, always will. So whenever there was a trial or whatever, I was there for him.
Has the famous Brando name done Christian more harm than good?
This is one of the few cases that I've worked on where the person who was charged with the crime suffered as a result of the celebrity of another. That is, Christian Brando is basically an unemployed welder. In the normal course of events, he would have been appointed the public defender, and this case would have been resolved very quickly with a plea to manslaughter. But because his father is Marlon Brando, the case got elevated and maintained as a murder case when Everybody knew from day one of this case that it was going to be a manslaughter plea.
The Los Angeles District Attorney's Office wanted murder one.
Mr. Brando should be treated like any other accused through the criminal justice system. It is the position of the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office that this is a no-bail case.
But after 3 months, a bail agreement was reached, $2 million. This time, Papa Brando really stepped in to help by using his $4 million estate, the scene of the crime, as collateral.
I just wanted to thank all the people that supported me writing the letters, and it's good to be out.
This wasn't the only time Marlon fought for his son. In 1957, Marlon divorced Christian's mother, Anna Kashfi, an actress he met in Hollywood. The sometimes violent custody battle for Christian dragged on for years until Marlon received custody in 1965. Attorney Marvin Mitchelson represented Christian's mother in the battle.
If you knew what a difficult situation that young man had in growing up being fought over by his parents for probably the longest running custody case in the history of Hollywood, certainly went on for years. And there's some damage done there, you know. It wears off on a child.
And Christian's case seems to have taken its toll on his sister Cheyenne. Right after the killing, Cheyenne fled to her native home, Tahiti, and almost killed herself. The mere mention of her name brings heart-wrenching tears to her father's eyes.
Cheyenne is doing her best. Excuse me. Sorry.
Cheyenne Brando is the one person who knows for sure what happened that terrible night in May, and she left the country soon after. Now, when we return, Miko Brando talks about his mysterious sister and what she told him when they rendezvoused in Tahiti after the killing. All of the Brandos are intensely private people, shunning the spotlight as much as they can. Cheyenne Brando fled halfway around the world to escape questions about her lover's killing. Now, part 2 of our exclusive interview. Her brother, Miko, revealing for the first time what Cheyenne told him when they met in Tahiti after her attempted suicide. Cheyenne Brando once had a model's beauty. She got her Tahitian looks from her mother, Tarita, whom Marlon met while filming Mutiny on the Bounty. She and Christian are close, perhaps too close.
2 suspects in vehicle passenger.
According to police reports, only Christian and Cheyenne really know what happened the night of the fatal shooting. Cheyenne had been dating Dag Drolet, a tall, husky Tahitian who was soon to be the father of her son. But Christian told police Cheyenne complained Dag was slapping her around.
The beating by a man 6 foot 6 inches tall, 220 pounds, of a 20-year-old, 7-month pregnant woman certainly is more than adequate provocation.
But the provocation had a deadly ending. Cheyenne fled to Tahiti, some speculate to avoid testifying against her brother. At the time of the shooting, she intimated to police that the shooting may have been intentional, but her family claimed she was suffering from a nervous breakdown and was too ill to testify.
She's in a hospital. There's no reason for her to come back.
She was not a witness to any of the important events that led to the prosecution. She was somebody who, even if you assume what the police say she said was true, those statements would not have hurt Christian's case. It's debatable whether they're even admissible, but even if they were admissible, they would not have hurt his case.
Cheyenne had problems of her own. The fatal shooting of her boyfriend by her brother and the birth of her baby son spun Cheyenne into an emotional breakdown, followed by 2 suicide attempts that landed her in the hospital.
I went for a couple of weeks, stayed by her and spent time with her, and I came home.
Miko came home in time to witness Christian plead guilty to voluntary manslaughter. When the plea was over, Marlon rushed to Tahiti and shipped his emotionally unstable Cheyenne to Paris to be treated at a psychiatric clinic.
I think it's going to be a long process with her. I think it's going to take a while for her to mentally get over it, and just, you know, she needs mental help and she's getting it, and one day she'll be okay.
Will Marlon Brando survive this tragedy? He said the messenger of misery has come to his home and has struck 2 of his beloved children.
I think it's, to say the least, yeah, but he's a strong man and he'll prevail.
And will Christian Brando prevail? Soon, a judge will decide his fate.
Anytime you plead to manslaughter, you are not getting off scot-free. That's A. B, I think that any sentence in this situation means that he's not getting off scot-free. I think that there will be some sentence. There may be time served, there may not be time served.
Miko Brando only hopes the judge treats his brother fairly, as a human being, not as a famous person's son.
I hope he gets a fair sentence. I hope the judge makes the right decision, which I'm sure he will. And I want to just put it all to rest and put it behind us and keep going forward.
Christian Brando learns his future on February 26th. He could be sentenced to as long as 16 years in prison, but the judge could also put him on probation with no time at all behind bars. While he awaits his fate, Brando is spending his days doing what he did before the whole mess began, working as a freelance welder.
Next up on Trial Watch, it started out as a high school prank, but this student is facing 5 years in prison. A peaceful Midwestern town has been shattered by astounding news. To the people of Troy, Michigan, it seems hard to believe that Linda Conflitti, a pretty popular high school senior, has been charged with a vicious crime, drugging her English teacher. No matter what a court ultimately decides, there are at least 2 tragedies in this case. The teacher has been recuperating for months. Linda has been suspended from school and could go to jail, and all because of what everyone says started out as a prank.
Well, Linda Marie Conflitti, probably because she thought she was pulling a student prank, passed her hand over the coffee cup of Robert Heffernan, a teacher, and in her hand she had LSD. She dropped the LSD tablet, and within 20 minutes to a half an hour, Mr. Heffernan started to witness hallucinations.
I never intended to drop it in. I never dropped it in.
I saw my daughter without arms. I saw my daughter with eyes bleeding. I saw my son with also disfigured. I was unable to reach out to them. I was unable to help them.
Linda saw that something was happening to him. He started to act anxious. Later, he staggered from the school and drove himself about 4 miles to Beaumont Hospital, where his blood was tested.
Well, he obviously did not realize what he had ingested, and as the hallucinations got worse, he started to exhibit a lot of anxiety. Faces became distorted, voices became distorted, and at some point he thought he was having a heart attack.
Linda was shocked. How could he be acting this way when she never really put the pill in her teacher's coffee, but just pretended to? She says it was all a prank that backfired, and at least one classmate knows it.
I came back to my seat and I sat down, and I was talking to Lisa, and we were like laughing about it because we thought it was funny. And she's like, "Did you put it in?" And I showed Lisa the pill, and I put it in my pocket. And she said, and we were like laughing, kidding, because we were the only ones who knew it didn't happen.
Now for another strange twist. Lisa denies seeing the pill in Linda's hand, but the prosecution believes Lisa was part of the prank and is afraid to admit it.
Lisa, according to our investigation, created a diversion, calling the teacher back to her desk so that Linda Conflitti would have an opportunity to go up to the desk and place the LSD in the teacher's coffee.
Students in the class were privy to the prank that was supposedly being played, saw Linda approach the coffee cup with this drug in her hand. But yet there is not one student, and some of the students were in the first and second row, saw the pill actually leave her hand and enter the coffee cup.
With no eyewitnesses, the prosecution plans to use results from a positive LSD blood test to prove Heffernan was drugged by Linda. But Linda's lawyer doesn't think that evidence is strong enough.
After Mr. Heffernan went to the hospital, his blood was drawn, and his blood was tested by 2 other drug testing laboratories, and each one of those came back inconclusive. No drug in the blood. That evidence then was taken to the Oakland County Prosecutor's Office. They then shipped the vial of blood to a laboratory in Pennsylvania and told them to look for LSD, and lo and behold, 1/2 of a nanogram, which is 1/1,000,000th of a gram of LSD, was found in this teacher's blood.
Which of the 3 drug tests is telling the truth? Was the teacher really drugged? Will the prosecution be able to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Linda was the one who drugged Heffernan's coffee?
That, of course, is the crux of the case, is did she in fact drop this pill in the cup? And there are no eyewitnesses that can actually say the pill went from her hand to the cup.
I don't really know what happened. I hear from people that it was during second hour, and people hear it was during third hour, but all I know is I didn't put the pill in the cup, and I'm getting blamed for it.
Teacher Bob Heffernan is still recovering from his ordeal, but he's expected to return to teaching for the second semester. Linda Conflitti has been charged with drugging her teacher, and if she's convicted, the high school senior could go to prison for up to 5 years.
Well, next on Trial Watch, one woman's heroic struggle to keep her crippled child in their neighborhood school. Street gangs have turned areas of Los Angeles into an urban killing field where more than 400 people were slaughtered last year. Many were innocent victims caught in the crossfire. Sochi Soto was victimized twice, first by a gang bullet, then by the school system.
That's the way I like it to be, young boy.
This is Sochi Soto. She's 4 years old and, like any preschooler, full of energy. But on a terrible night almost 3 years ago, Sochi was the victim of a senseless drive-by shooting.
I was washing the dishes when a car stopped right in the middle of the street and shot 3 times. My husband was holding the baby, and he just told me to call 911 because Sochi was hit. And I just went crazy.
Sochi was 10 months old when her spine was severed by the bullet. She never even took her first steps. But the bullet hasn't seemed to slow her down at all.
Where are you putting her?
We're going to school now. Okay?
Walking?
No walking.
There was a time not so long ago when a scene like this didn't seem possible. Marcella's dream for her daughter to go to the neighborhood preschool was blocked by concrete steps like these that led to the classroom. Dore Wong is the principal at the school Sochi wanted to attend.
I knew that she had been using her body crawling and getting into the activity, so there was no qualms about that. But basically, the getting into the classroom and the getting out of the classroom was my major concern.
The school district wanted Sochi to attend a different school, one which had already been modified for students who were not able-bodied. But Sochi's mother was adamant. She wanted her daughter to attend the school in their neighborhood. She was determined to fight for that right.
I was kind of worried because I thought she never will make it. But then I go, no, I have to fight, and we have to fight, and we have to fight.
One of the lawyers she met was particularly sensitive to the rights of the disabled. As a dwarf, Paul Miller knows all too well what it's like to be treated differently from others.
There's no reason to warehouse disabled children just with other disabled children. They should be mainstreamed with able-bodied children because that's the way they're going to live their life. And that's the way they should be getting used to living their life, is to be a part of society, not hidden away from society.
Miller filed a lawsuit against the LA Unified School District. Sochi Soto had taken on the largest school system in the country.
We felt that Sochi was entitled to go to this particular school, that was what the law provided, and the school district had decided that they did not want to build this ramp at this particular school.
Just as the case was about to be heard by a judge, a settlement was reached. The district agreed to build a ramp for Sochi.
The settlement was premised more on a humanitarian approach and outlook rather than on the legal issues.
Although Sochi is fitting in just fine at school, her principal is worried because Sochi doesn't have a role model.
She is the one and only right now at our school. And she doesn't see how you can really take a wheelchair and move around. I mean, we have some schools where the children are monitors, etc., and it's not a handicap. they know how to deal with it. And she's a quick learner though, and so she may end up just being our role model and being our leader here at school.
Unfortunately, Sochi's battles with the school district are far from over. The ramp that was built for her only provides access to the preschool and kindergarten. Now, Marcella may have to wage that war all over again when Sochi is ready for first grade.
Rob, when Trial Watch returns, what happens if someone gets injured at your house? I'll have the answer when we come back.
And today's You and the Law is about an uncomfortable topic. What happens if a friend is injured at your home?
It is uncomfortable, but it's important. You're responsible for keeping your house or your apartment safe and for warning your guests about any dangerous conditions they're unlikely to recognize. You'd be liable, for instance, if a friend tripped on a raised floorboard that you had repeatedly forgotten to fix. And you'd also be responsible if someone slipped on an icy walkway you didn't shovel. That is, if you didn't warn them about it. By the way, I should point out, if an accident like this does happen, make sure to check your homeowner's insurance policy. That'll usually cover it.
Good. All righty. That's it for us today. Join us again tomorrow for Trial Watch.